I woke up in the middle of the night to something impossible. The room was silent, yet my blanket slowly floated above the bed as if it had no weight. At first, I thought it was a dream. Then my phone slid off the nightstand, but it didn't fall. It hovered in the air, spinning slowly. That's when I realized everything around me obeyed gravity, except me. I tried to sit up, but the moment my back left the mattress, my body drifted upward like a balloon released into the air. Panic surged. My feet left the bed, then the floor. I grabbed the edge of the table, but it barely slowed my ascent. Outside, the world seemed normal. Trees swayed gently, lights glowed in the distance. Only I was weightless. Only I was trapped. The worst part wasn't floating. It was the silence. No creaks, no whispers, nothing to explain what was happening. My body floated higher, grazing the ceiling. I pushed myself down, barely touching the floor. My hands trembled. Then I noticed something terrifying. Even the clock on the wall seemed frozen, mocking me. Gravity had abandoned me completely. I grabbed my phone to record what was happening, but holding anything became nearly impossible. Every movement sent me drifting across the room like a feather. Looking in the mirror, I saw myself hovering a few inches above the ground. Fear weighed heavier than gravity ever had. Then, without warning, I slowly rose again, pulled upward as if by an invisible hand. Touching the ceiling made me realize the true horror. The higher I floated, the harder it became to descend. I clutched a door handle, tugging myself down, my breath ragged, heart-hammering. I tried to stand, but my feet barely held the floor. The night stretched endlessly around me, and I understood one thing. Gravity was gone, and I might never touch solid ground again. I tried to step toward the door, but my body refused to obey. Each movement sent me drifting sideways, colliding gently with walls and furniture. My pulse raced, my mind spinning. I could feel the invisible force that held me, pulling me away from the floor. It was as if my own house had become a trap designed specifically for me, floating endlessly in some twisted dream. I grabbed a chair and clung to it, hoping it would anchor me. It didn't. The chair lifted with me, slowly tilting toward the ceiling. Every object in my hands became a weightless thread, swinging uncontrollably. My reflection in the mirror no longer looked like mine, pale, terrified, and suspended in air. I realized this wasn't random, it was targeted. Gravity had singled me out. The windows offered no comfort. Outside, the world remained the same: trees, streetlights, distant cars. But inside, reality was unraveling. I tried to call for help, my voice trembling, but even my words seemed lighter than air, barely reaching the walls. Panic grew, tightening around my chest like an iron band. Every second felt stretched, every heartbeat louder than before. I moved to the kitchen, hoping the floor there might feel normal. It didn't. My feet slid along the tiles, barely touching the ground. I clutched the countertop, my knuckles white. Objects hovered around me. Cups, utensils, even a loaf of bread drifting silently. It was absurd, terrifying, and completely impossible. How could physics betray me alone, in my own home? Time seemed to bend. Minutes stretched like hours. I floated from room to room, my fear growing with each step. My heart pounded, echoing in the emptiness. The walls of the house, once familiar, now felt alien. My body was weightless, yet the terror pressing down on me was heavier than anything I had ever felt. Something invisible had claimed control, and I was powerless. I discovered the basement door slightly ajar, though I had locked it earlier. A dim light glowed below. Against my better judgment, I floated down, hoping to find an explanation. The stairs stretched impossibly, my body floating in slow motion. Each step felt heavier despite my weightlessness. The basement smelled of damp earth and rust. And then I heard a soft, whispering hum, almost welcoming me. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the walls and floor. I tried to retreat, but I drifted downward anyway. Shadows twisted unnaturally along the corners. My vision blurred as if the air itself was bending. Something was waiting, something unseen, orchestrating my helpless drift. I clutched the handrail, only to find it lifted me higher, closer to the source of the hum. The basement felt alive. In the dim light, I saw shapes forming. Shadows elongated, twisted into figures that didn't belong. I screamed, but my voice floated uselessly above the floor. The walls seemed to pulse, as if breathing. Fear surged like electricity, and for the first time, I felt the full weight of my solitude. Gravity had abandoned me completely, and now the house itself was hunting me. I tried to reach the stairs, but my body resisted. I floated sideways, then upward, colliding gently with the ceiling. The shadows followed, moving unnaturally, as if mocking me. I realized that every room I entered distorted reality more. The basement, once familiar, now felt infinite. Each object, each shadow, every whisper conspired to remind me. I was trapped in my own home, and it wasn't mine anymore. Panic turned to desperation. I needed something solid, something real. I tried to grab a support beam, a pipe, anything. My hands brushed the wood, and it slid through me like smoke. The basement stretched endlessly downward. Floating helplessly, I understood the horrifying truth. Gravity was not just gone, it had been replaced with something else. Something alive, something that wanted me weightless and vulnerable. I drifted further into the basement, my mind racing. Whispers grew into murmurs, murmurs into faint laughter. I couldn't tell if it came from the shadows or my own imagination. Every instinct screamed to escape, yet I had no leverage. My feet hovered inches above the floor, yet I felt the weight of fear pressing harder than any physical force. I was utterly alone, yet not alone at all. I noticed strange markings on the walls. Symbols scratched deep, as if by some enormous hand. They glowed faintly in the darkness, pulsing with the rhythm of my heartbeat. I reached toward them, and for a moment, I felt an electric surge run through my floating body. The shadows flinched, recoiled, but never vanished. Whatever had taken control of gravity here was aware of me, and it was curious. I tried to climb back up, to escape the basement's grip, but my body drifted in slow, uncontrollable loops. The air felt thick, viscous. Breathing became a struggle, as if even oxygen obeyed this new reality. I realized I could not run, not even in my mind. The house had become a trap, a floating labyrinth where walls, ceilings, and floors were illusions, and I was the prey. A sudden crash startled me. A shelf of old boxes tumbled, but instead of hitting the floor, each box hovered and spun in midair. Papers fluttered like feathers. I tried to grab them, but they slipped through my fingers. The basement seemed to respond to my fear, twisting reality further. Every object became a threat, every shadow a watcher. Gravity had been replaced with chaos, and I was powerless. I floated near a small window. Outside, the night seemed ordinary, serene. Moonlight shimmered on the trees, distant lights blinked softly. Yet I could not escape. My home was a cage, my body weightless but my mind heavy with terror. The invisible force controlled me completely, and I realized, no one could save me. This night would last forever, and I was trapped in it alone. Desperation made me reckless. I shot upward, trying to slam myself against the ceiling to force gravity back. I collided gently but floated right back down. Each attempt was useless. My body obeyed nothing but the whims of the unseen. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with mockery, aware of every futile effort. I was a prisoner of my own body, drifting endlessly, a spectator in my own nightmare. Something shifted. The shadows in the corner coalesced, forming shapes vaguely human but impossibly distorted. They whispered my name, soft and cruel. I couldn't scream. My voice floated uselessly above me. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet I had nowhere to go. Gravity was gone. My house was alive, and it wanted me to float, forever. I floated past the furnace, the smell of hot metal and dust filling my senses. My limbs moved sluggishly despite having no weight. I tried to reach the stairs again, but they seemed to stretch endlessly before me. Each step I took felt like wading through invisible molasses. Panic consumed every thought. I understood clearly now. I was utterly alone, trapped in a house that obeyed no laws I knew. I drifted into the storage room. Old furniture, boxes, and tools hovered randomly, colliding softly yet menacingly. The whispers grew louder, forming words I couldn't quite understand. My heart raced, my chest tight. The walls themselves seemed to bend toward me, closing in, teasing, daring me to try escaping. Gravity had abandoned me, and the house was claiming me as its own. Dawn approached, but the outside world didn't matter. I hovered in the center of the house, surrounded by floating objects and whispering shadows. My body refused to obey me, my mind screamed for freedom. For the first time, I realized this might never end. Gravity was gone, my home had become a prison, and I had become part of its nightmare, forever suspended between earth and terror.